Living alone as an older man carries a weight of assumptions that few people question. Society paints a picture of isolation, decline, and quiet desperation. Empty rooms, forgotten routines, days that blur together without meaning or connection. But what if nearly everything we've been told about men aging alone is incomplete at best and fundamentally wrong at worst? The truth emerging from recent research challenges decades of conventional wisdom. Older men who live independently aren't necessarily lonely, struggling, or marking time until circumstances change. Many are thriving in ways that surprise even the researchers studying them. They're building richer friendships, taking better care of their health, and discovering parts of themselves that remained hidden for decades. This isn't about making the best of a bad situation. For many men, living alone becomes a genuine choice, one that opens doors they never knew existed. Take a deep breath. Right now, at this moment, you're doing something that millions of older men across the country do every single day. You're managing your life on your own terms. And here's what society doesn't often tell you. That can be not just okay, but genuinely fulfilling. Today, we're going to challenge one of the most persistent myths about aging, the idea that older men living alone are somehow incomplete, struggling, or waiting for something better to come along. The research tells a remarkably different story, and so do the voices of thousands of men who've discovered that solo living in their later years isn't a consolation prize. It's often a conscious choice that leads to unexpected growth, deeper connections, and yes, genuine happiness. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll explore 3 surprising benefits that older men living alone often experience, the critical health factors that actually determine whether someone thrives independently, practical strategies you can implement immediately to make solo living work for you, and perhaps most importantly, a mindset shift that transforms everything. Whether you're already living alone, considering it, or supporting someone who is, what you're about to discover might completely reshape how you think about this chapter of life. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. When most people picture an older man living alone, certain images come to mind. The empty chair at the dinner table, the unopened mail piling up, the quiet house that feels too big. These images are so ingrained in our culture that we've come to accept them as inevitable truths. But here's what the actual research reveals. Living alone and being lonely are not the same thing. Not even close. A comprehensive study from the University of Michigan followed over 5,000 adults over the age of 60 for more than a decade. What they found challenges everything we assume. Men living alone reported feeling lonely only slightly more often than those living with partners. And in some cases, particularly among men who had recently lost spouses or gone through difficult divorces, those living alone actually reported lower loneliness levels than their married counterparts. How is this possible? The answer lies in understanding a crucial distinction, the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful feeling that occurs when there's a gap between the social connections you want and the ones you actually have. It's involuntary, distressing, and yes, it can harm your health. But solitude is something entirely different. Solitude is chosen. It's the intentional time spent alone that allows for reflection, creativity, and genuine peace. One is a wound, the other is a refuge. Think about Tom, a 72-year-old retired engineer from Oregon. After his wife passed away 3 years ago, everyone expected him to struggle. His adult children kept suggesting he move to an assisted living facility for companionship. But Tom had a different vision. He stayed in his modest home, but he transformed how he spent his time. He joined a woodworking club he'd been interested in for years but never pursued. He reconnected with his love of jazz music, something that had taken a back seat during decades of marriage to a partner who preferred classical. He started volunteering at the local library's computer literacy program, teaching seniors how to video chat with grandchildren. When I asked Tom if he was lonely, he paused for a long moment. Then he said something profound. "I'm alone more than I used to be, sure. But lonely? No. For the first time in 40 years, I'm getting to know myself again. I forgot how much I enjoyed my own company." That distinction between being alone and being lonely is everything. The research backs this up in fascinating ways. A study published in the Journal of Gerontology found that older men who live alone often develop what researchers call selective social optimization. Think of it as quality over quantity for your social life. Instead of maintaining dozens of superficial connections or attending social events out of obligation, these men become highly intentional about their relationships. They invest deeply in friendships that truly energize them. They have meaningful conversations rather than small talk. They choose activities they genuinely enjoy rather than ones they feel they should do. This selectivity actually leads to richer emotional lives. Consider the typical pattern for many married men throughout their lives. Often, their wives manage the social calendar, coordinate with other couples, remember birthdays, and maintain family connections. These men may attend events and gatherings regularly, but how many of those relationships are truly theirs? How many would they choose if given complete freedom? Living alone forces a beautiful recalibration. Men discover which friendships they genuinely value. They learn to initiate plans rather than waiting to be included. They develop social skills that may have atrophied during decades of partnership. And contrary to what we might expect, this often results in stronger, more authentic connections. Mark, a 68-year-old former accountant, told me he has fewer friends now than when he was married, but the friendships he maintains are deeper and more meaningful. He meets his closest friend every Thursday morning for coffee and conversation that ranges from philosophy to politics to personal struggles. He plays poker with a group of 5 men twice a month, relationships built over 15 years of consistent connection. He volunteers at a food bank every Saturday morning, where he's developed genuine bonds with both other volunteers and regular visitors. These aren't the hollow connections of someone desperately avoiding loneliness. They're the intentional relationships of someone who's learned what matters, and the research shows this approach works. Men who practice selective social optimization report higher life satisfaction, better mental health outcomes, and surprisingly, better physical health too. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The stereotype suggests that living alone means giving up on romance, intimacy, and partnership. Nothing could be further from the truth. Many older men living alone maintain vibrant romantic relationships. They're just structured differently than traditional cohabitation. There's even a growing movement called living apart together, where committed couples maintain separate homes while enjoying the benefits of a romantic partnership. We'll explore this more later. But for now, understand that living alone doesn't mean living without love. It means having the freedom to define what love and connection look like on your own terms. Now let's talk about something crucial: your health. Because here's what everyone worries about when they think about older men living alone. What happens when you get sick? Who notices? If something's wrong? What about medications, doctor's appointments, nutrition? These are legitimate concerns, but the research reveals something surprising. Your living arrangement matters far less than you'd think for health outcomes. What matters much more is something called health literacy and self-care capability. A landmark study from the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed men over 60 for 8 years, comparing health outcomes between those living alone and those living with partners. When they controlled for baseline health and income, they found something remarkable. Men living alone who possessed good self-care skills and health knowledge had nearly identical health outcomes to married men. In some measures, particularly around medication adherence and preventive care appointments, solo men actually performed better. The key phrase here is self-care capability. This isn't about whether you can cook or clean, though those matter. It's about whether you can effectively manage your own health. Can you track your medications and take them consistently? Do you understand your health conditions well enough to recognize warning signs? Can you prepare nutritious meals most days? Do you know when to seek medical help versus when to wait? These skills determine health outcomes far more than whether you have someone else in the house. Think about Leonard, a 74-year-old living in Arizona. After his divorce 5 years ago, Leonard initially struggled with managing his diabetes and high blood pressure. His ex-wife had handled all the medical appointments, picked up prescriptions, and prepared the specialized meals his conditions required. Within 6 months of living alone, Leonard had missed several doctor's visits, run out of one medication, and gained 15 pounds eating restaurant meals and frozen dinners. But Leonard made a crucial decision. Instead of viewing himself as helpless without a caregiver, he decided to become his own health advocate. He created what he calls his Health Command Center, a simple system using a tablet, pill organizer, and kitchen whiteboard. He set up medication reminders on his phone. He learned to cook 6 different healthy meals he actually enjoyed. He found a local men's walking group that meets 3 mornings a week. He scheduled all his medical appointments for the same day of the month, making them easier to remember. 2 years later, Leonard's health markers were better than they'd been in a decade. His A1C was controlled, his blood pressure stable, his weight down 20 pounds. When I asked him what changed, he said, "I realized that taking care of myself was actually taking control of my life. Nobody was going to do it for me, and that was liberating, not limiting." This concept of health literacy deserves deeper exploration because it's so critical. Health literacy means understanding medical information well enough to make informed decisions. It includes knowing what questions to ask your doctor, understanding prescription labels, recognizing which symptoms require immediate attention, and being able to navigate the healthcare system effectively. Studies show that low health literacy is associated with worse health outcomes, more hospitalizations, and higher mortality rates, regardless of living situation. Here's the practical application. If you're living alone or considering it, investing in your health literacy is one of the most valuable things you can do. This might mean taking notes during doctor's appointments and asking for clarification when you don't understand something. It might mean using patient portals to track your health information. It could involve joining support groups for any chronic conditions you manage, where you'll learn from others' experiences. Many hospitals and community centers offer health literacy programs specifically designed for older adults, and these can be transformative. The nutrition component deserves special attention because it's often the first thing people worry about. Can older men living alone eat healthily? Absolutely, but it requires some strategy. The research shows that men living alone tend to eat less variety and more processed foods compared to those with partners, but this isn't inevitable. It's about developing systems that work. Consider the batch cooking approach that many successful solo men use. Choose one day a week, perhaps Sunday afternoon, and prepare several meals at once. Make a large pot of vegetable soup, a tray of baked chicken with roasted vegetables, and a healthy chili. Portion these into individual containers and freeze them. Now you have home-cooked, nutritious meals ready to heat throughout the week. This approach is actually easier and less expensive than cooking from scratch every night, and the food is infinitely healthier than takeout or frozen dinners. Technology can also be your ally here. Grocery delivery services mean you don't need to navigate crowded stores. Meal kit services, if budget allows, provide pre-portioned ingredients with simple instructions. Recipe apps can help you discover meals you enjoy that match your dietary needs. A simple slow cooker or instant pot makes cooking remarkably easy, allowing you to prepare complete meals with minimal effort. But perhaps most importantly, don't underestimate the value of eating socially, even when you live alone. Research consistently shows that sharing meals improves nutrition, mood, and overall health. This might mean joining a community dinner program, having a regular weekly meal with a friend, or participating in a potluck group. Some men establish informal dinner cooperatives where they rotate cooking for each other once or twice a week. This provides social connection, shared effort, and exposure to different foods and recipes. The physical safety aspect also concerns many people. What if you fall? What if you have a medical emergency? These are reasonable worries, but they're manageable with planning. Consider a medical alert system. These have evolved far beyond the clunky devices of the past. Modern systems are discreet, often wearable as watches or pendants, with fall detection that automatically alerts emergency services. Many also include daily check-ins and activity monitoring that can detect unusual patterns. Build a check-in system with trusted contacts. This might be a daily text or call with a friend or family member. Some men establish morning coffee dates via video chat, providing both social connection and a daily wellness check. Create a contact list with important phone numbers, your doctor, pharmacy, a nearby friend or neighbor, and emergency contacts, and keep it visible, perhaps posted on your refrigerator. Make your home safer without making it institutional. Remove tripping hazards like throw rugs. Ensure adequate lighting, particularly in hallways and bathrooms. Install grab bars in the shower. and near the toilet. Keep a flashlight and phone charger near your bed. These simple modifications dramatically reduce fall risk while preserving your independence and the comfort of your home. The mental health dimension is equally important. Living alone does require vigilance about depression and cognitive decline, but again, living arrangement isn't destiny. What matters is staying engaged. Regular social interaction, physical activity, mental stimulation, and a sense of purpose are the protective factors. A man living alone who volunteers, exercises regularly, maintains friendships, and pursues hobbies has far better mental health outcomes than a married man who sits on the couch watching television all day. Watch for warning signs in yourself, because self-awareness is crucial when you live alone. Are you losing interest in activities you used to enjoy? Sleeping much more or less than usual? Neglecting personal hygiene? Withdrawing from friends? These could indicate depression and warrant conversation with a healthcare provider. Similarly, if you're noticing more frequent confusion, memory problems, or difficulty managing tasks that used to be routine, don't dismiss these as normal aging. They deserve evaluation. The research is clear and hopeful on this front. Men living alone who maintain health literacy, practice effective self-care, stay socially connected, and remain physically active have excellent health outcomes. Your living arrangement is just one variable among many, and it's far from the most important one. Understanding that solo living can be healthy and fulfilling is one thing. Actually making it work day to day is another. So let's get practical. What are the specific strategies that help older men not just survive but truly thrive living alone? Let's start with social connection. Because even though we've established that living alone doesn't mean loneliness, maintaining meaningful relationships does require intentionality. Consider what I call the 3-3-3 rule for social connection. This is a flexible framework, not a rigid requirement, but it provides useful structure. The goal is to have at least 3 meaningful in-person interactions each week, 3 phone or video conversations, and 3 social activities or outings. Those 3 in-person interactions might be coffee with a friend, attending a religious service, working on a project with a neighbor, or volunteering. The key is meaningful engagement, not just being in the presence of others. Sitting alone in a crowded coffee shop doesn't count. Having a genuine conversation, working together on something, or sharing an experience, that's what matters. The 3 phone or video conversations help maintain connections with people who aren't nearby. Maybe you have children or old friends in other cities. Regular video calls can provide surprisingly rich connections. Don't underestimate the value of seeing someone's face, even through a screen. Many men find that scheduling these calls for the same time each week makes them easier to maintain. The 3 social activities or outings get you out of the house and engaged with your community. This might be a book club, exercise class, hobby group, men's group at a church or community center, or regular attendance at a coffee shop where you've become a familiar face. These activities provide structure, something to look forward to, and opportunities for both casual and deeper connections. Robert, a 70-year-old former teacher in Minnesota, follows this framework religiously, though he didn't know it had a name. Monday mornings, he meets 2 other retired teachers for breakfast. Wednesday afternoons, he volunteers at the public library. Friday evenings, he attends a blues jam session at a local bar where he plays harmonica. He calls his daughter every Sunday morning and his brother every Thursday evening. He video chats with an old college roommate the first Saturday of each month. He attends a men's breakfast at his church twice a month. When you map out Robert's week, it might not look as socially full as a married couple's calendar packed with couple friends and family obligations. But Robert never feels lonely. Every interaction he has is one he chose, with people he genuinely enjoys. He has plenty of solitude for reading, woodworking, and simply thinking, but he's never isolated. That's the balance we're aiming for. Now let's talk about the daily business of life: cooking, cleaning, home maintenance, all the tasks that many men haven't handled regularly if they've spent decades in traditional marriages. The key here is to develop systems that prevent small problems from becoming overwhelming ones. For household tasks, consistency beats intensity. Instead of letting dishes pile up all week and facing a mountain on Saturday, wash them every evening while your dinner settles. Instead of waiting until laundry overflows, do one load every few days. Instead of ignoring dust and clutter until it's oppressive, spend 15 minutes each morning on basic tidying. These small daily investments prevent the overwhelming weekend cleaning marathons that many men dread. The batch cooking approach we mentioned earlier applies here too. But beyond meal prep, consider batching other tasks. Designate one afternoon a month for paying bills and managing paperwork. Set aside one morning a week for yard work or home maintenance checks. This structured approach prevents things from slipping through the cracks, while also preventing household management from consuming your entire life. For home maintenance, you'll need to develop either skills or relationships, preferably both. Learn basic repairs through YouTube videos or community education classes. Many hardware stores offer free workshops on common home tasks. But also build a network of trusted professionals, a reliable plumber, electrician, and handyman. Get recommendations from neighbors or local social media groups. Developing these relationships before you need them in an emergency is crucial. Some men find it valuable to create a home maintenance calendar. List all the regular tasks your home needs: HVAC filter changes, gutter cleaning, smoke detector, battery checks, and schedule them throughout the year. Set reminders on your phone. This systematic approach means nothing gets forgotten until it becomes a crisis. Technology can be tremendously helpful for men living alone, but you need to be intentional about which technologies actually serve you. A smartphone is essentially non-negotiable in today's world. It provides access to emergency services, navigation, medication reminders, video calls with family, health monitoring, and countless other useful functions. If you're not comfortable with smartphones, invest time in learning. Many libraries and senior centers offer free classes. Consider which other technologies genuinely improve your independence. A tablet might make it easier to manage recipes, watch exercise videos, or video chat with family. Smart home devices like programmable thermostats or voice-activated assistants can add convenience. Health monitoring devices like blood pressure cuffs or glucose monitors that sync with your phone help you track your health data. But avoid technology for technology's sake. If it genuinely makes your life easier or safer, great. If it just adds complexity and frustration, skip it. The transportation question deserves attention because it affects everything else: getting to medical appointments, grocery shopping, maintaining social connections. If you're still driving comfortably, maintain that independence as long as safely possible. Keep up with vehicle maintenance. Be honest with yourself about your driving abilities and avoid conditions that challenge you, whether that's night driving, highway driving, or driving in bad weather. But also develop backup plans before you need them. Learn about public transportation options in your area. Many communities offer specialized transit for seniors. Ride-sharing services like Uber or Lyft can work well once you learn how to use them. Some grocery stores offer delivery or curbside pickup. Build relationships where people are willing to give you rides occasionally. The key is never letting transportation become a barrier to the life you want to live. Financial management is critical because living alone typically costs more per person than shared living, but it also offers complete control over spending priorities. Create a realistic budget that accounts for your actual expenses. Many men underestimate how much they'll spend on food, home maintenance, and healthcare. Build an emergency fund if at all possible. Experts recommend 6 months of expenses, though any cushion is better than none. Look for opportunities to right-size your life. If you're living in a house that's too large or expensive to maintain, consider downsizing to something more manageable. This isn't giving up, it's choosing freedom from excessive space, maintenance, and cost. Many men find tremendous relief in moving from a 4-bedroom house to a smaller home or apartment that better fits their current needs. When downsizing possessions, use what I call the joy utility test. For each item, ask whether it brings you genuine joy or serves a real utility in your current life. Notice that word current, not your past life, not a theoretical future life, but the life you're actually living. That enormous dining table you haven't used for a formal dinner in 5 years? It might be time to let it go. The golf clubs gathering dust since your back started giving you trouble? Someone else might love them. Be ruthless, but also thoughtful. Some possessions hold genuine sentimental value and deserve to stay. Understanding your benefits and entitlements is also important. Are you maximizing your social security benefits? Do you qualify for property tax reductions or other senior benefits in your community? Are you using Medicare effectively, including understanding your options for supplemental insurance? Many men leave money on the table simply because they don't know what they're entitled to. AARP and your local area agency on aging can be excellent resources for navigating these systems. Finally, protect yourself from fraud and scams, which disproportionately target older adults living alone. Be extremely skeptical of unexpected phone calls, emails, or letters requesting personal information or money. Legitimate organizations don't demand immediate payment or threaten consequences. If something feels wrong, it probably is. When in doubt, hang up and call the organization back using a phone number you find independently. Discuss major financial decisions with a trusted friend or family member. Con artists rely on isolation and rushed decisions. Slow down and consult others. Now, let's address something that doesn't get discussed. Enough relationships, romance, and intimacy for older men living alone. The stereotype is that living alone means these chapters of life are closed. The reality is far more complex and hopeful. Many older men living alone maintain romantic relationships. They're just structured differently than traditional cohabitation. The concept of living apart together, or LAT relationships, is growing increasingly popular among older adults. These are committed romantic partnerships where both people maintain separate residences. They might spend considerable time together, stay over at each other's homes, travel together, and function as a couple socially. But they don't live together full-time. Why does this model appeal to many older adults? For one, it preserves independence and personal space that many people have come to value. After decades of sharing bathrooms, kitchens, and living spaces, having your own domain feels liberating. LAT relationships also avoid many common sources of conflict in cohabiting relationships: arguments over household chores, clashing daily routines, different preferences for temperature or cleanliness, and the general friction that comes from constant proximity. Consider James, a 73-year-old man who's been in a LAT relationship for 4 years. He and his partner Carol, who lives about 15 minutes away, see each other 4 or 5 times a week. They cook dinner together, attend concerts and plays, take trips, and are deeply committed to each other. But James treasures his mornings alone with coffee and the newspaper. Carol values her independent friendships and crafting hobby. Neither wants to navigate the compromises of full cohabitation at this stage of life. When asked if they might eventually move in together, James laughs. Why would we mess with something that works so well? The research on LAT relationships shows high satisfaction levels among older participants. Many describe getting the best of both worlds: companionship, intimacy, and emotional support of a relationship, combined with the independence and self-determination of living alone. For men who've been widowed or divorced and have established their own routines and preferences, this model often feels ideal. But romantic relationships aren't the only way to maintain intimacy and deep connection. Friendships in older adulthood can provide profound emotional support, and living alone sometimes allows men to develop friendships more deeply than they did when a spouse managed much of their social life. Male friendships have their own texture and value. The buddy who you meet for coffee every week and talk about everything from politics to health concerns. The old friend from your working days who you stay in touch with and who understands your professional identity. The neighbor who's become a genuine friend through shared interests or experiences. These friendships require cultivation. Men are often socialized to believe that friendships should be effortless, that they just happen. But in older adulthood, especially when living alone, maintaining meaningful friendships requires effort. You need to initiate plans. You need to be willing to be vulnerable occasionally, sharing real thoughts and feelings rather than just surface conversation. You need to show up consistently. The men who thrive living alone almost universally have at least 1 or 2 close friendships they've intentionally nurtured. Family relationships also often deepen when men live alone, though sometimes in unexpected ways. When you're part of a couple, your spouse might serve as the primary liaison with family members, calling the kids, organizing holiday gatherings, remembering birthdays. When you're alone, you develop more direct relationships with your children and grandchildren. Many men describe this as surprisingly rewarding. Instead of second-hand knowledge of their grandchildren's lives filtered through their spouse's phone calls, they have direct video chats. Instead of being the quiet presence at family gatherings organized by others, they host events and make plans themselves. This doesn't happen automatically. It requires reaching out, staying connected, and being willing to be present in ways that might feel unfamiliar. But many men discover that these direct family connections are richer and more satisfying than the mediated relationships they had before. Sexual intimacy deserves mention too, because the assumption that older men living alone have given up on physical intimacy is often wrong. Whether through committed relationships, dating, or other arrangements, many older men maintain active, intimate lives. If this is important to you, don't let age or living situation convince you it's no longer possible. Safe sex practices remain important at any age. Open communication with partners about expectations, health concerns, and desires becomes even more crucial. And remember that intimacy extends beyond intercourse to include physical affection, emotional closeness, and genuine connection. For men who aren't interested in romantic or sexual relationships, that's equally valid. But emotional intimacy remains important for well-being. This might come through deep friendships, family relationships, or connections with a faith community. Human beings need to feel known, valued, and connected to others. Living alone doesn't preclude this. It just means being intentional about creating and maintaining those connections. We've covered the research, the health realities, the practical strategies, and the relationship possibilities. But none of this matters as much as the mindset you bring to living alone. Because here's the fundamental truth. Living alone can be either a diminished circumstance you endure or an opportunity you embrace. The difference isn't primarily in your external situation. It's in how you choose to frame and approach it. Many men fall into solo living through divorce, widowhood, or simply the way life unfolded. They view it as something that happened to them, a default situation they're stuck with until something better comes along. This passive framing almost guarantees dissatisfaction. You're living in a state of waiting, of incompleteness, of lack. Every empty chair is a reminder of absence. Every meal eaten alone reinforces what you've lost. This mindset makes thriving nearly impossible. The alternative is to view solo living as an active choice, a chapter of life with its own unique gifts and possibilities. Even if circumstances pushed you into this situation initially, you can choose to embrace it now. You can ask not, "What am I missing?" but "What becomes possible?" This reframing isn't about denial or forced positivity. It's about recognizing genuine opportunities that solo living provides. What opportunities? The freedom to structure your days entirely according to your own preferences and energy patterns. The space to rediscover interests and parts of yourself that got lost during decades of compromise and coordination. The chance to curate your social life intentionally, investing in relationships that genuinely matter to you. The ability to make decisions large and small without needing consensus or approval. The invitation to develop competencies and confidence in managing all aspects of your life. Think of Gerald, an 80-year-old artist in New Mexico. He's been living alone for 6 years since his wife passed away. For the first year, he was lost. Every day felt like a reminder of what he'd lost. His adult children worried about him constantly. But gradually, something shifted. Gerald started taking his art seriously again, something he'd dabbled with throughout his life but never prioritized. He converted his guest room into a proper studio. He started attending life drawing classes. He began showing his work at local galleries and art fairs. When I spoke with Gerald, he said something striking. I loved my wife. I miss her every day. But I've also discovered that I like my life now. If she were here and I could have her back, I'd choose that in a heartbeat. But she's not, and pretending this situation is temporary or something to escape was making me miserable. When I accepted that this is my life now and started asking what I wanted to do with it, everything changed. That's the mindset shift. From "this is what I lost" to "this is what I have." From "I'm alone" to "I'm independent." From "nobody's here to take care of me" to "I'm capable of caring for myself." These aren't just semantic differences, they fundamentally change your experience of daily life. This shift requires courage. It means letting go of certain cultural narratives about what later life should look like. It means accepting that your path might not match your parents' experience or society's expectations. It means being willing to experiment, to try new things, to risk feeling awkward or uncomfortable as you develop new skills or explore new relationships. It also requires intention. Living alone successfully isn't something that just happens. It requires planning, effort, and ongoing adjustment. You need to be deliberate about maintaining social connections. You need to systematize aspects of daily life so they don't overwhelm you. You need to invest in your health, literacy, and self-care capabilities. You need to cultivate purpose and meaning through activities, relationships, and contributions that matter to you. But here's what many men discover. Putting in this effort is itself empowering. Every system you develop, every skill you acquire, every challenge you navigate, these build confidence and competence. You're not dependent on anyone else to maintain your life. You're not waiting for rescue or improvement from external sources. You're actively creating the life you want to live. That sense of agency and capability is profoundly satisfying. Purpose deserves a special attention because it's so crucial to well-being, especially in later life. Research consistently shows that people with a strong sense of purpose live longer, healthier, more satisfied lives. Purpose doesn't have to mean grand achievements or world-changing contributions. It might be as simple as being a reliable presence in your grandchildren's lives, maintaining a garden that brings you joy, volunteering for a cause you believe in, creating art or music, teaching skills you've developed to others who want to learn, being a good friend, leaving your corner of the world slightly better than you found it. Living alone sometimes makes cultivating purpose harder because it's not automatically built into your daily life. You don't have a spouse whose needs provide structure. You might not have children at home requiring care, but this blank slate also offers opportunity. You get to choose what matters to you, what you want to dedicate your time and energy to. Many men find this tremendously freeing. One final aspect of the mindset shift involves accepting help when needed while maintaining independence where possible. Living alone doesn't mean being completely self-sufficient in all things at all times. It means being realistic about your capabilities and limitations. Maybe you hire someone to mow the lawn because it's become too physically demanding, but you maintain the garden beds yourself because you enjoy it. Maybe you use grocery delivery for the heavy shopping, but still go to the farmer's market for fresh produce and social interaction. Maybe you accept your daughter's help with complex financial decisions, but manage your daily budget yourself. The goal isn't to prove you don't need anyone. The goal is to maintain maximum independence in the areas most important to you while accepting support in others. That's not weakness or failure. That's wisdom. So here we are, nearly at the end of our time together. If you've stayed with me through this entire discussion, you've learned that living alone as an older man is far more nuanced than societal stereotypes suggest. It's not inevitably lonely, diminished, or unhealthy. With the right skills, systems, and mindset, it can be a chapter of genuine growth, freedom, and satisfaction. You've learned that loneliness and solitude are different things, and that many men living alone develop selective social optimization that leads to deeper, more meaningful relationships. You've learned that health outcomes depend more on self-care capability and health literacy than on living arrangements alone. You've learned practical strategies for managing everything from daily household tasks to finances to maintaining relationships and intimacy. Most importantly, you've learned that framing matters tremendously. Living alone can be either something you endure or something you embrace. That choice is yours. If you're already living alone, I hope this has validated your experience and given you new ideas for thriving even more fully. If you're considering it or supporting someone who is, I hope you have a more nuanced, hopeful understanding of what this life can be. And if you're worried about an older man in your life who's living alone, I hope you'll approach him not with pity but with recognition that he may be choosing and enjoying this life, even if it looks different from what you expected. Living alone in older age isn't for everyone. Some people genuinely prefer cohabitation and find deep satisfaction in traditional family structures. That's completely valid. But for those who do find themselves living alone, whether by choice or circumstance, this path offers real possibilities for richness, purpose, and joy. So here's my challenge to you. If you're living alone, take one action this week to enhance your experience. Maybe it's reaching out to reconnect with an old friend, Maybe it's signing up for that class or group you've been considering. Maybe it's creating a system for managing and tension, the aspect of life that's been stressful. Maybe it's simply deciding to view your solo living as an opportunity rather than a limitation. Take one step forward. If you're supporting someone who's living alone, ask them about their experience instead of making assumptions. Listen for what they're enjoying, not just what's challenging. Offer specific help rather than general concern. Respect their independence while staying connected. And maybe share this video with them if you think they might find it valuable. Before you go, I want you to do me a favor. If you found this information helpful, if it changed how you think about solo living in older age, or if you know someone who would benefit from hearing it, please share this video. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future content focused on practical wisdom for living well in later life. Leave a comment sharing your own experience with solo living or a strategy that works for you. Your insights might help another man who's navigating this path. Remember, living alone doesn't mean living less. Sometimes it means living more fully, more authentically, more intentionally than you ever have before. You have more capability, more resilience, and more possibility than society often suggests. Trust yourself. Invest in yourself. And above all, embrace this chapter of life with courage and curiosity. Take good care of yourself. Until next time, this is your reminder that you are not just getting through your days. You have the power to create a life that genuinely works for you, whatever that looks like. Now go live it.